it recording. Today we'll take literature. We'll take the third read of chapter 12. Take chapter 12. For that the excerpt is jazz. We will take the third read. Okay? I'll share the PowerPoint. Okay, here we start. Do you see the PowerPoint, girls?
Yes.
Okay. So today in the third read, we will focus on juxtaposition. Juxtaposition, we said previous time, juxtaposition is a literary technique when two concepts or two characters or two ideas or locations are placed near or next to each other, so that the reader compare and contrast them, like black and white. Black shows the white and white shows the blackness. Okay, so he gives you examples. For example, in Charles Dickens' novel A Tale of Two Cities, it is a famous novel by a famous author, Charles Dickens. A Tale of Two Cities. He opens using a series of contrasts. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Best, worst. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Wisdom, foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredibility. Belief and incredibility. Season of light, season of darkness, season of light and darkness. Spring of hope, winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. Okay, we had everything, we had nothing. So this is juxtaposition. When I have two opposing concepts, two opposing characters, two opposing ideas, why? To compare and contrast and show. So the reader, when the reader reads, he compares between the two cases. The best of times and worst of times. The season of light, the season of darkness. So he compares, not stop and compare, but he feels the comparison between the two terms or the two concepts or two characters.
Yes?
Yes, dear.
Can you call Arwa because she can't enter?
Wait a minute, I'd like also to change the network. Is Arwa here? Something happened and he disconnected me from the meeting. Arwa, could you enter?
Yes, I entered.
Okay. So let's continue the presentation. So we are talking about the juxtaposition, how to bring two opposing concepts, two opposing characters near to each other in order to show the contrast between them. And then I want you to open with me page 257, please. Are you here, girls?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Here, what is advertisement? This is the excerpt we will take today. Advertisement for the Waldorf Astoria, and I will tell you now what is a
Like
Waldorf.
what we did in the project.
What, Yehuda?
Like what we did in the project, like to
Yes.
yes, to give someone review about something that they
Yes.
can buy.
Yes, I will tell you what is the Waldorf Astoria after we read for a while.
Okay.
Okay, Dima, are you here?
Yes,
Dima?
teacher.
Yes.
Yes, which page?
In front of you, the slide page, slideshow, page
That's I
250.
forgot to tell you, Judy didn't enter because she had SAT, so she's studying.
Okay.
Okay.
257. Open 257.
Do I read?
Yes, please.
In the midst of that depression, the world of Astoria opened. On the way to my friend's home on Park Avenue, I frequently passed it, a mighty towering structure looming proud above the street, in a city where thousands were poor and unemployed. So I wrote a poem about it called Advertisement for the Waldorf Astoria, modeled for an ad in Vanity Fair announcing the opening of New York's greatest hotel, where no and worked and none were admitted as guests. The hotel opened at the very time when people were sleeping on newspapers in doorways because they had no place to go. But suites in the Waldorf ran into thousands a year, and dinner in the search room was $10. And even if they had the money, couldn't eat there. So Nasser didn't care much for the Waldorf Astoria.
Yes. Okay. Who is talking here? The one who is talking here is the poet who wrote the poem. Is Langston Hughes. Langston Hughes. Okay, he is an African American poet, a very famous African American poet, Langston Hughes. Okay, and in his poem we will see why we brought this poem, because it has lots of juxtaposition. Okay, so the poet Langston Hughes says what? Says that he was once walking in the street in the middle of the depression. Remember the depression, the Great Depression of the United States. In the midst of that Great Depression, and people are suffering to eat and they cannot find food, the Waldorf Astoria opened. I will show you pictures for it. On the way to my friend's home, when he was walking home, he saw an advertisement looming proud above the street in a city where thousands were poor and unemployed. The city was full of poor and unemployed people. Remember the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl and everyone, and the Great Depression of the stock market, and everyone was unemployed and they were searching for work. So he wrote about a poem about it called Advertisement for the Waldorf Astoria, modeled after advertisement in Vanity Fair announcing the opening of New York's greatest hotel. This is the greatest hotel. So we're no niggers, and here the nigger, they call it the N-word because they don't like to say negro. No niggers worked and none were admitted as guests. The Negroes in the streets, they didn't have work and they were not allowed to enter this hotel. Two, The hotel opened at the very time when people were sleeping on newspaper in doorway. Yani people used to sleep on the newspaper in the street, on newspaper, not even blankets, because they had no place to go. So this advertisement about this famous hotel, about this luxurious life, and people are sleeping on the newspaper in the street. But suits in the waldorf ran into thousands a year. Thousands a year. And dinner in the third room was $10. Negroes, even if they had the money, couldn't eat there. So naturally, didn't care much for the welfare, Waldorf Astoria. When you go to a very poor place, girls, and you put for them an advertisement for the new Mercedes, it is like the same. Okay, so we go back to the author. He is Langston Hughes, and he wrote that poem, as we said, when he was walking in the district where poor people were sleeping on the newspaper in the streets, and on the other way, at an advertisement for the luxurious opening of the Waldorf Astoria. This is what? This is juxtaposition or not, girls?
What, miss?
This is so Huda, I only have Huda. So every literature period, I only have Huda. That's it. Is it a juxtaposition or not, girls?
Yes.
Yeah.
How?
No, it's not.
Why?
It doesn't compare two things.
What about the poor people and the luxurious advertisement?
Yes.
Yes,
It is.
it is.
Yes.
So Langston Hughes was born in 1902 and he left in 1967. Okay, in Missouri, Joplin, Missouri. He was raised for the first 13 years of his life by his grandmother. He then lived in Lincoln, Illinois, and later Cleveland, Ohio, with his mother and her new husband. He graduated from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. He lists the poets Paul Laurence Dunbar, Carl Sandburg, and Walt Whitman as his greatest influences. Okay, Ghala, are you here? Noor? Leah?
Yes, miss. Teacher, did you call me?
Yes, ya Ghala, read ya Ghala.
Okay. Most of his poetry provides insight into the common experiences of Black America, both a good and the bad from the 1920s to the 1960s. In addition to his many poems, Hughes also wrote plays and countless works of prose as resident of Harlem, New York during the 1920s and 1930s. Hughes is listed as in what? Integral to the Harlem Renaissance. Hughes' poetry reflects the vernacular of the time period, however, to be sensitive to the classroom dynamic and students' experiences. The N-word has been removed from the poem.
So most of his poetry provides insight into the common experience of Black American, both the good and the bad, from the 1920s till 1960s. In addition to his many poems, he also wrote plays and countless works of prose. Prose is when you use the language to create literature. He also wrote plays and countless works of prose as a resident of Harlem. Harlem at that time, when we discussed it, girls, we said Harlem was the place for the African American. They settled in Harlem. And in Harlem, yeah, although that it was too poor, but people there, the African American, they taught themselves. They didn't go to school, but they taught themselves. They tried hard to learn literature and write literature. So it was the Harlem. U is listed as integral. Integral is a whole, a complete to the Harlem Renaissance. What is Harlem Renaissance? Harlem Renaissance is the Renaissance of Harlem at that time. The prosperous of Harlem at that time, the literature. most of the African American who lived at that time, they are the famous authors till now. They wrote the famous literary stories or poems or prose till now. This was called the Harlem Renaissance because at that time they started to write, and they got so famous by their short stories, long novels, and that's why it's called the Harlem Renaissance, when the prosperous of the literature at that time.
Yes.
Why in Harlem? Because those black people who lived in Harlem, they have suffered a hard life. And an author who suffers is a brilliant author because he can feel what other people feel, what are other people's misery, what other people problems. So they can write about it. So when they write about it, they touch your heart. That's why they are so famous and they are so brilliant in their writing, because they suffered. They can feel the feelings of other people. So Hugh poetry reflects the vernacular is the slang of the time period, okay? Slang language even. But he for they say for you because of the class and this, they remove the N word. Okay, what is the N word? Negro. Are you with me, grade 11?
Yes.
Yes.
Miss.
So the big C
Miss,
is
is the negro, does it mean like black or does it mean a
yes,
slave?
no, black, negro.
Ah, okay.
This
Miss.
poem is set in Harlem, okay, set in Harlem during the time period in which Toni Morrison's jazz is set. So in the same time Toni Morrison wrote jazz, he wrote this poem. And we know, girls, we understand, we discussed it before, that sometimes we take two excerpts with the same goal, but we take a poem and a novel or a short story to compare how the author gives me his message, the same message but delivered in many ways. Hugh uses of contrast provides excellent insight into the tone of this poem. So we read the excerpt, and from the Big C, okay, it is an autobiography by Langston, which will provide you with important background about why the author wrote this poem. So there is the Big C. Big C is an autobiography. What is autobiography? A person's life written by himself. So what we read now before we talk about him is the part of his autobiography about the part when he wrote this poem. Okay, so it was written in the time of Toni Morrison wrote jazz that we took previous time, in the time of Great Depression. So then we read this, that when he was walking in the street and he saw this advertisement on the wall, and there were people sleeping on the newspaper because they couldn't afford sleeping on even blankets.
Yes.
So this has come to Waldorf, Astoria. This is the poem, and how was it published? Fine Living a la carte.
It's like written in Miss paragraphs.
Yes,
It's like every paragraph has a name, a title.
yes. I will tell you now. We will tell. We will
Miss
read now.
Aya is calling you. I don't think you can hear her.
Aya.
Aya Banja.
Yes,
Miss,
yes,
did you
Aya.
put me absent?
No.
Oh, okay.
Are you with me, Aya? You have your literature book?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. I read from the beginning. Okay. Come to the Waldorf Osteria. So the objectives, what are we going to do while we read? As we read the poem, we will underline places where he uses contrast. So we will underline just juxtaposition, the contrast, and we make notes in the thoughts column, okay, about the idea or feeling those contrasts convey, and how to analyze how he uses special types such as boldface and capitalization. When we read, we will, when we start reading, we'll understand. I will open now for you the Here is it, girls. Do you see the PowerPoint, girls? Here. Be with me, please.
Fine living, a la carte. Come to the Waldorf Astoria. Listen, hungry ones, see what Vanity Fair says about the new Waldorf Astoria. All the luxuries of private home. Now, won't that be charming when the last flophouse is tearing you down this winter? Furthermore, it is far beyond anything hitherto attempted in the hotel world. It cost $28 million. The famous Oscar Cherokee is in charge of banqueting. Alexandra Cousteau is chef. It will be a distinguished background for society, so when you've no place else to go, homeless and hungry ones, choose the Waldorf as a background for your rags. Or do you still consider the subway after midnight good enough? Roomers, take a room at the new Waldorf. You down and outers, sleepers in charities flophouses where God pulls a long face and you have to pray to get a bed. They serve swell board at the Waldorf Astoria. Look at this menu, will you? Gumbo Creole, crab meat and cassolette, boiled brisket of beef, small onions and cream, watercress salad, peach melba. Have lunch in there this afternoon, all you jobless. Why not? Dine with some of the men and women who got rich off of your labor, who clipped coupons with clean white fingers because your hands dug coal, drilled stone, sewed garments, poured steel to let other people draw dividends and live easy. Or haven't you had enough yet of the soup lines and bitter bread of charity? Walk through Peacock Alley tonight before dinner and get warm anyway. You've got nothing else to do.
Okay, girls, please be with me. I will play it again from the beginning and then I stop to explain what does he say. Okay, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Fine living, a la carte.
So he starts by saying fine living, a la carte. Fine living is a good living. A la carte, it means that every dish has a price. Okay, it is expression said in the hotel and terms in this.
Come to the Waldorf Astoria.
Come to the Waldorf Astoria. When Astoria, when we, it's advertisement. Wanna break? Get Kit Kat like this.
Listen, hungry ones, see what...
Listen, hungry ones. Listen, hungry. He talks to the hungry people.
So he is
Listen,
making an advertisement for this restaurant?
No, he is talking about when he was walking in the street and he saw people who were sleeping on newspaper and in front of them a luxurious advertisement about a new opening of this luxurious hotel, Waldorf Astoria.
Oh, okay.
Astoria. Waldorf Astoria. So he wrote a poem about that.
Okay.
What Vanity Fair says about the new Waldorf Astoria.
Look, see what Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair is this he holds in his hand, or the advertisement was there on the street. Vanity Fair says about the new Waldorf Astoria. Let's hear what the Vanity Fair says about it. Hungry people, come hungry people and go. All the luxurious of private home. Ooh, luxurious of private homes. Now, will not that be charming when the last flap house has turned you down this winter? Isn't this will be charming? This new hotel is charming for you, you hungry people. When the last flap house, I'll show you what is a flap house better to understand with me. Here he talks to whom, girls?
Yeah, he
Please.
must say it for the hungry ones. So he's making fun of them that they are making an advertisement
Yes.
for a hotel and they can't eat a sesame
Yes,
like
yes,
that.
Flap House. There was pictures for it yesterday. Here is it. This is a Flap House. You see? This is a Flap House. Flap
Miss,
House.
it is
An
the
hotel
same.
with a very cheap price. You see?
Miss,
Hotel.
it's
This is an hotel.
شو اسمه? It's stuck.
Flap House. What is stuck here?
The page on YouTube. It's
I didn't
stuck.
share it. This is Flap House, girls. Do you see it?
Yes.
So he says if the recent Flap House, the place where Negros sleep, if the recent Flap House has turned you down, oh, now it's your time to go to Waldorf of Astoria. He makes fun, girls. He is not serious about it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so like when someone eats beans in the morning and you say to him, why didn't take your breakfast in the Ritz-Carlton?
Yes. Yeah, they are making a hotel of 8 million, I don't know how much. There
Yes.
are people that are
While
dying
there are
of hunger.
people who cannot find place or food. If the last Flap House turned you down, you will find a luxurious life in this hotel. Come to Osteria. Come to Waldorf Osteria. Okay.
All the luxuries of private home. Now, won't that be charming when the last flop house has turned you down this winter? Furthermore,
All the luxurious of private home. Now, won't that be charming when the last Flap House has turned you down this winter? You can go there. So this is juxtaposition, girls. When he talks about Flap House, turned you down, and luxurious of private home. So please underline it.
it is far beyond anything hitherto attempted in the hotel world. It cost $28 million.
It is far beyond the hitherto attempt in the hotel world. Until now, it is the best hotel in the whole world. It cost $28 million for this hotel, and people are sleeping on newspaper in the street.
The famous Oscar Cherokee is in charge of banqueting. Alexandra Cousteau is chef.
See, Alexandra Gusto is the chef who will cook for you. And
The famous chef.
yes,
They are also
yes. And Oscar Cherokee is in charge for banqueting. Banqueting is preparing the table for you to eat. And Alexandra Gusto is the chef. See how the life is luxurious there?
It will be a distinguished background for society. So, when you've no place else to go, homeless and hungry ones, choose the Waldorf.
So homeless and hungry ones, if you don't have any place to go, choose the Waldorf Astoria. They are hungry, they have no place to go because they do not even have $1, and they see this advertisement. So how would they be feeling of this advertisement?
Waldorf is a background for your rags.
Choose the Waldorf as a background for your rags. Rags is a kind of fabric like tomato, like potato. Do you know when your father buys potato? Potato is in this rag. They used to sew this rag and put it on as cloth.
Who? The homeless
The
people?
poor people, of course, poor people.
Yeah.
Taya, are you here, Taya? Linda, are you here? Rujane? Dima? So I want to hear you. I want to hear you girls.
Yes, teacher, I'm here.
Sarah, Ragad, يعني be with me, عهد.
Yes.
Okay, so isn't it a background for your rags, or do you still consider the subway after midnight good enough, or you prefer to sleep in the subway? You know, in the subway, poor people sleep in the subway. If you travel abroad, you will find them sleep in the subway. So go to Astoria, or you prefer the subway? Of course, they do not prefer the subway. They are forced to sleep in the subway because they
How
cannot
stupid
afford
are
it.
they?
Yeah.
How stupid are they?
Yes.
Or do you still consider the subway after midnight good enough? Roomers, take a room at the new Waldorf. You down and outers, sleepers in charities flop houses where God pulls a long face and you have to pray to get a bed.
Roomers, the rooms. Take a room at the new Waldorf. You down and outers, you down and outers. Sleepers, why you sleep outside? Why you sleep outside? Outer sleeper in a charity's flap house. Why you go and sleep in the charity flap house? This I showed you the picture of it. Why you go and you sleep in the charity's flap house? Go there. You prefer to sleep in the flop house where God pulls a long face and you have to pray to get a bed. Why you have to pray to get? Look how poor they were. They are praying to get a bed in a charity flop house. Why you prefer to sleep in the subway? Why do you prefer to sleep in the and pray for a bed in the flop house? Go to this hotel.
Miss, it's like the movie Pursuit of Happiness. Did you watch it?
Yes, it is like
Yes,
this. Yes.
it's like that when they were when the man
It's
and his child was
we're
going
searching
to.
for a room for a bed and they give him
Yes,
this bed and he was crying all day and praying to find a bed. They
yes.
serve swell board at Waldorf, Astoria. Look at the menu. Come. Look at the menu. See what is in the menu.
They serve swell board at the Waldorf Astoria. Look at this menu, will you? Gumbo Creole, crab meat and cassolette, boiled brisket of beef, small onions and cream, watercress salad, peach melba. Have lunch in there this afternoon, all you jobless.
Look at the menu. Look at this luxurious meals. Go and have lunch there after this afternoon. You are jobless. Go there. Okay, you understand the idea now, girls, right? So there is no need to remind you
Yeah.
every time that he is making fun of that. They don't have a penny and others spend money on all of that. Have lunch there. Okay, their afternoon. All you jobless, why not?
Why not? Dine with some of the men and women who got rich off of your labor, who
Dine, not fine, because here it's written fine. Dine, yani have dinner with some of the men and women who get rich of your labor. Who got rich of your labor. They
Yes, when
get
they worked
rich.
for them.
Yes, because you work for them, they serve them, you serve them, and they get rich. Who clip coupon, what is written for you in your book? Clip coupon means what? I
Redeem
imagine.
interest. Wait, oh,
What Huda?
I was reading it if you want me to.
Read it.
Okay, redeem interest payments on investments.
Yes, payment on investment. Who clip coupon with clean white fingers. Clean white fingers. Because your hands dug coal. You know what is to dug coal? To get the coal out of the miners?
Yes.
Yes.
Drilled stone. Drilled stone. Sewed garments, cloth. Poured steel to build, the steel. To let other people draw dividends and live easy.
Yes.
White, with clean white fingers, because your hands are what dug coal, drilled stone, sewed garments, powered steel, to let other people live dividends and live easy. So this is a juxtaposition on what, girls?
Yes, it is.
What with what?
Yes.
Yet what with what
Compare
he
the
did?
rich with the poor.
Rich
Yes.
with the poor. The fine white hands with the what?
With
The ones with
the
mud and
yes,
dirt.
dog
Yes.
coal like.
clipped coupons with clean white fingers because your hands dug coal, drilled stone, sewed garments, poured steel to let other people draw dividends and live easy. Or haven't you had enough yet of the soup lines and bitter bread of charity?
Or يعني you don't want to go to eat there? Haven't you had enough yet the soup lines and the better bread of charity? You want to go and you eat bread and soup at the charity and do not want to go there? You have to go there.
Miss, every script and every poem or story about how the discrimination and racism was shows how heartless people were.
Yes.
How heartless and selfish they were.
Yes. Yes, dear. Yes.
Walk through Peacock Alley tonight before dinner and get warm anyway.
Walk through Peacock Alley. What is Peacock Alley?
It's
What is
a
it?
name of an alley, like a way.
It is written for you down.
A very fancy restaurant in the Waldorf, Astoria.
Astoria. It is a very fancy restaurant there. Walk through Peacock Alley tonight before dinner and get warm anyway. You've got nothing else to do. What do you have to do? Go there and have fun.
You've got nothing else to do.
Okay, we will stop here and we continue after 5 minutes, girls. Don't be late, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, dear.